Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this breakout session, also about the Global Fleet Survey connectivity, but this time we will highlight a little bit more the results coming from the corporate fleet owners, so the answers of the corporate fleet owners. In the morning session on main stage, we discussed a little bit what the supplier's point of view was with regards to connectivity and telematics. And this time we'll look into a little bit more detail in how the end customers, so the corporate fleets, are effectively looking at those solutions. My name is Sven Rossum, for people who don't know me yet, and I'm a marketing manager and head of research at Nexus Communication. So I'm responsible for the surveys and survey management at Nexus. And this specific survey, Global Fleet Survey Connectivity, is a survey which we conducted at the beginning of the summer, in the middle of June, which we had open for about 4 weeks. And in total, we had 236 respondents to this survey. As mentioned also this morning, around 60%, 64% to be exact, of the representatives that participated were fleet suppliers, also telematics providers and resellers. And 36% of the participants were effective corporate fleet owners. So, and that is exactly what we are going to address right now. So their responses. As mentioned, this survey and the full results of the survey are available in our Global Fleet Knowledge Center. Just go to globalfleet.com, and on the right-hand side, there is a tab called Knowledge Center, on which you can download this and many other surveys of Global Fleet. All right, I would say let's kick off immediately with the first slide. And that's just to give a little bit of a view of the audience that we are talking about right now. So as mentioned, these are the responses of the corporate fleet owners. And the first question we asked, okay, well, can you give us an indication of how many passenger cars and LCVs or vans do you have in your fleet? 70% passenger cars. So 70% of the fleet owners indicated that they have passenger cars in their fleet, and another 30% had a sole LCV or van fleet responsibility. Well, not sole in the sense that a percentage of those 31%, so 9% to be exact, had a dominant LCV van fleet of above 80%, while 20% of the passenger car respondents had a dominant passenger car fleet, so above 80%. If we go to the next slide, this is a question we also asked for the suppliers, but this is the one for the fleet owners. So asking fleet connectivity and connectivity solutions for your fleet, how important is that to meet your goals? And we see that 72% have indicated that's important to very important. Only 4% or 8%, perhaps if you count on somewhat not important as well, have indicated that connectivity is not part or crucial right now in their strategy. This is an interesting one, first of all, because it is aligned to what the fleet suppliers are saying. Fleet suppliers effectively said around 90% that it was important or very important. So they are a little bit ahead of that curve. But nevertheless, we see that from a corporate fleet perspective, connectivity is truly high on the agenda. All right. Then asking those corporate fleets, effectively, what percentage of vehicles in your fleet today are currently leveraging a connectivity solution? And we see that approximately 1/3 have less than 5% of their fleet connected. I think of that 36%, approximately 20% of them even had no telematics solutions in place yet. But that means that also approximately 8% already have one or more percentages of telematics incorporated or implemented in their fleet. Even 16% have more than 50% of their fleet tailored with connectivity solutions. That's just looking at that figure a little bit more in detail. So that 16%, indeed, as mentioned, the majority there of the respondents were based either in the US, Latin America, or in Europe, but then mostly Sweden or the UK. So you can clearly see a geographical difference there in the sense that where fleets are really packed with connectivity, so the majority of the fleet, that's mostly in countries where it's either easier to implement connectivity solutions, or where there's an absolute dire direct need to have connectivity or telematics integrated in the fleet. So looking at those countries, so which countries today have the majority of vehicles connected with the telematics or integrated with telematic solutions? There we see the UK with almost 20%. As mentioned earlier, that's due because of the high emphasis on health and safety in the UK, a lot higher than in mainland Europe if you compare that, because of different rules and regulations. And that is why it's easier probably to integrate telematic solutions in your UK fleet. Nevertheless, in Sweden and Belgium, also 11%, and in the US and France, they both ended up with 8%. Other countries that stood out were Brazil, Netherlands, and Germany, all between 5 and 7%. Okay, we go to the next slide. Important one, 2025. So 4 years ahead from now. Okay, what are your expectations when it comes to connected vehicles in your fleet? And 48% is the number that they indicate, which means that there's still room to grow. So if we look at today, we have, if we saw a couple of slides back, we only have 16% with 50% or above connectivity solutions in their fleet. That means that we still need to grow quite a bit. Interesting part was also that almost 30%, so 28%, expect a connectivity penetration in their fleet of more than 75%. Of course, that is also looking at a little bit more from a logical point of view, is looking at vehicles that are coming out today are already packed with quite a bit of connectivity integrations. So probably it will be heading that way anyway, whether it's 2025, which is the right year, or it's a little bit earlier or later, that is to be seen. But nevertheless, we see here clearly that connectivity and connectivity solutions are going to be, again, high on the agenda. Just for the audience, again, before I forget, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and I will try to respond them at the end of the session. The next slide is specifically tailored towards EVs. EV, electrification, being a very, very hot topic within the corporate fleet world today. We see that if the question was asked, approximately what percentage of vehicles in your fleet are an EV or plug-in hybrid today, we see that 76% is saying 0 to 5%. And only 12% is saying between 11 and 30%. I think these are realistic numbers today, but what we are also seeing that if we look at certain numbers of leasing companies, for example, in countries like the Netherlands or Belgium, we see order intake for 2021, we see order intake percentages of between 30 to 60% of the bigger leasing companies in those countries that are either electric or hybrid vehicles. So we can expect in the coming years that this will increase drastically. So even today, only 0 to 5% of those global fleets, but definitely from a European point of view, that integration of EVs will increase drastically over the coming years. Now, when talking about EVs, connectivity is not far away. Simply because there are so many extra added values that you can imagine when looking at electric vehicles today and where connectivity can provide solutions. Just thinking about charging locations, thinking about battery statuses from a distance, those kind of things are where connectivity can really truly add value. And that we also see that the respondents, so the corporate fleet owners, effectively understand that. And also here we see approximately 71% of them stating that it's either important or very important that you have with an EV, a connected EV. We get to the next slide. If you look at corporate fleets, so just again, so this is a survey carried out under the brand Global Fleet. So that was really directed primarily to global fleet owners, but also to regional fleets, and there were also quite some local respondents. But of course, the focus here was on global fleets. And then when we asked the question to those global fleet managers, where is the decision being made to procure and implement telematic solutions? 52% is saying this is happening at a global level. Another 24% is saying, okay, well, this is done via region, so in Europe or North America or Asia Pacific. And another 24% is saying this is done locally. I think personally, if we examine a little bit these results, and if we look at previous results of previous surveys, we see that now, probably 3 to 4 years ago, it was more difficult to look at this from a global level because the players, also the telematics specialists, were probably a little bit more fragmented. But right now we see true global players jumping up, meaning that making decisions on a global level is definitely feasible. All right. Then we get to the next slide. I think this is an important one, obviously, also for all the suppliers here. Is if you ask those corporate fleet owners that are working with connectivity solutions today, where are they lacking? Predictive modeling is one. I think predictive modeling is present in a lot of telematics or connectivity solutions already today. However, I think it's not always 100% clear how that can be beneficial for corporate fleets and how that needs to be managed from a corporate fleet perspective. The second item that came out was the integration, API integration to other systems, to ERP systems or to HR systems. That is something that also there, I think, is pretty much available or widely available. But nevertheless, it is not something that has been at least understood by many corporate fleet managers today. Other things that were important as well were reporting controls, obviously the ease of use, configurability, and video telematics. If you go to the next slide, the biggest concerns and barriers to implement connectivity and telematic solutions in your fleet. And this is the biggest difference, and that's also something which I mentioned on main stage already this morning. From a supply perspective, if you ask them what do you believe your customers' biggest barriers for connectivity are, then it's all about costs. While if we look at what the corporate fleet owners are actually mentioning, then it's more, let's say, from a softer side. So data privacy, work council resistance, those are really the key aspects that are restraining them a little bit from integrating connectivity solutions today. Also, individual driver resistance. I can imagine that there are quite a bit or quite a percentage of employees that are a little bit concerned when connectivity or telematics are installed in their vehicle. And of course, that global procurement manager or that local fleet manager or that regional fleet manager needs to address those concerns. So that's also refraining them a little bit of going further. Other things, we're talking about the offering in the market, but also the lack of common standards, looking across the different regions, but also looking at across the different suppliers. And only at the last bottom of the list was the costs effectively associated with connectivity. I think I mentioned it earlier as well. We did another survey where we asked effectively, how are you looking at costs that come with connectivity? Can connectivity solutions or a connected vehicle cost a little bit more than a non-connected vehicle? And the majority was saying, yes, we have no problem as corporate fleet owners to pay a little bit more, but get, of course, more long-term benefits from connectivity. And only a minority was saying, no, we are not prepared to pay a little bit more. So the costs from a corporate fleet perspective is not the biggest hurdle. It's really internally around data privacy and work council resistance. If we go to the next slide, also here for the suppliers, and here we do see a big shift when it comes to answers that we've seen in surveys over the previous years. I think only in 2019 we did another survey, our global fleet survey, and where we also asked corporate fleet owners to respond on questions around telematics. We also asked the same question there. So which type of company or which of your providers are you most likely to partner with for telematics? And then it was clear that they were all counting, or the majority was counting on their leasing partner, their rental provider, even their manufacturer to help them with those solutions. We see today that is a big difference. 64% are saying that they are counting on a telematics specialist, so somebody or a company that is 100% focused on connectivity and telematics solutions to bring them the offering and to help and support their connectivity needs. While fleet management and leasing partners are only at 24%, car manufacturers, OEMs at 8%, and then we have others which included technology companies, but I'm presuming that's also more related to telematics specialists, and also again leasing companies that were mentioned in others. All right. And then we already get to my final slide. Also same question which we asked to the corporate supplier community is, has the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic slowed down or sped up your connected vehicle strategy? And we see here a small difference, but also not huge. 1/3 of the corporate fleet owners have answered effectively, this is speeding up my strategy, while 40% is saying this has slowed down. So it's a little bit controversial, but it's depending on the choice of the individual company, obviously. And some companies are grasping this opportunity while there are a lot of changes, a lot of shifts happening within their employee policies on travel and mobility, to take advantage and really start implementing connectivity solutions and to see if we can progress this, while others are doing exactly the opposite and saying, okay, no, well, we are going to put everything on hold for the time being, and we're going to revisit that in the next couple of years. So this was just a couple of the highlights that came out of the corporate fleet buyer survey. So the answers that they have. Again, you can download the entire full results on globalfleet.com in the Knowledge Center. And I now have still some time to answer any questions that you might have. So please do put them in the chat and I will try to answer them. I already saw one coming in from Dante. 48% connected by 2025. And you said that these might have onboard OEM devices and is therefore logical. The question was not asked, indeed, whether those are whether we were talking about aftermarket devices or effectively coming directly out of the manufacturer. But I think, well, I'm presuming here, but this is an assumption from my side. Assumption there is that probably some of the corporate fleet owners are indeed counting on the evolution or the revolution, whatever you want to call it, within the OEMs or within the manufacturers. With building integrated connected solutions, that is probably adding up to their percentage. The question was not asked specifically, so I don't have those specific answers, but that's a little bit the assumption that we've made from our side. Are there any other questions from the audience? Thank you, Dante. Yes, Dieter. When connecting to an EV, you can connect to the EV directly or to the charge poles to which it is connected for charging. Today, most fleet managers are looking at solutions involving charge poles. Did you notice this? No. To be quite honest, no. Again, this is not the level of detail that we have asked in the survey. I think when talking about EV and connectivity solutions, where we would try, or where we tried to put the emphasis was more, let's say, from the added value or the benefits you can expect from connected solutions in your fleet when it comes to driving an electric vehicle. Not necessarily on the charging infrastructure itself, but more on just imagine that if we can have integrated charging locations in your tool, in your device, if we can have effectively a direct connection between the vehicle and a fleet management system at the corporate head office, so that they can effectively follow up what's happening with the battery. Are those vehicles charged? Not only for passenger cars, but also for LCVs and vans. I can only imagine that if you are managing a larger LCV fleet in Europe, and those cars need to be on the road to do package delivering or something like that every day, that it would be handy to be able to manage that on site, so at the head office of the corporation, to make sure that all cars are fully charged by the morning again. So I think more from that perspective is how we questioned our audience. And I think there it's clear that they do see the link between potential connectivity solutions and EVs. All right, any other questions at this time? All right, great. Super. Thank you, Sharif. Thank you for the nice words, and same from you, Jonathan and Dieter. So again, if you want to have the full results, please go to globalfleet.com, Knowledge Center. You can download the entire results. There is also an ebook that includes quite a bit of analysis from our experts and our journalists, which you can also download at the same location around the survey and the outcomes of the survey. So please do so. And if you have any other questions around these results, please contact me. Of course, I will be in the Connected Fleet conference for a couple more hours, but even afterwards, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or via email, which you can find on our globalfleet.com site as well. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in one of the next sessions. Thank you. Thank you.